Let's go.
Throughout all of the different types of media that make up Street Fighter, there are several different forces of evil that threaten the world and its warriors. But thankfully, we have several different heroes that come in all shapes and sizes there to combat that evil. We have mystical fortune tellers, we have decorated military officers, and we have world-traveling karate masters. But there is one hero that is so heroic, so brave, so courageous, so virtuous, someone whose pure heroic nature makes you feel this sense of madness, this mania, this Skullomania. Now, let's go ahead and meet him. You eat today, you drink today, good. My name is Hyena Breezy, I hope you are doing well, and this is Enter the Heat of Battle. So, sit back, relax, grab a snack, and make it toasty while you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button as we meet the real hero of Street Fighter and
Enter the Heat of Battle.
Now, to get acquainted with our hero, we're gonna have to take a trip back to 1996 with the forgotten series of Street Fighter games, Street Fighter EX. Now, unlike the other Street Fighter games, this one was developed by Eureka, a company not too unfamiliar with the Street Fighter games because it was actually founded by former Capcom employees, especially one of the co-creators of Street Fighter II, Akira Nishitani. Now, at the time, the hot thing to do was make 3D fighters, so Street Fighter EX was Capcom letting Eureka take a shot at that. And in Street Fighter EX, we get quite a few brand new characters. We get Street Fighter's version of Rex Kwon Do, Alan Snyder. We get, oh lord! And we get the greatest hero of any generation, the one, the only, Skullomania. Now I'm about to tell you some top secret information about Skullomania that only I know, so do not let anyone else know about this. Can you trust me? Can I trust you? Okay, good. Now, in his day-to-day normal life, Skullomania actually works at a department store, where he can be found wearing the name tag of his secret identity, Saburo Nishikoyama. He's just your everyday average Joe, right? Has a wife, has kids, has a cute little pet named Pochiro-kun, and he has the higher-ups of his job constantly breathing down his fucking neck. So to get them off his back, he's forced to dress up in a superhero costume and act in this live show. But once he's done, he realizes something. There's something about putting smiles on people's faces. There's something about the poses and the performance. There's something about putting on that costume that lets you become something bigger, something greater than yourself that really resonates with Saburo. So of course, he can't get enough. This has awakened a newfound purpose in Saburo's life. He now realizes what he must do, not only for himself, but for the people around the globe. But to be a crime fighter, he is gonna have to get down the fighting part first. So he decides to go up against several of the world's greatest martial artists. But on his journey to find stronger and stronger opponents, he notices this evil stench in the air, this unmistakable bloodlust consuming the atmosphere. And the source of that evil bloodlust that Skullomania senses comes from the secret boss of Street Fighter EX, Garuda. You see, Garuda was once a hero in his own right. He was a samurai that protected his village. But the lust of power in battle would overtake his body and transform him into a demon who feeds off of the dark emotions and feelings of all of those in his warpath. So Skullomania believes that it takes this true hero to defeat a former hero and make sure that his path of villainy is stopped in its tracks. But on his journey to fight evil, he's stopped in his tracks himself by somebody else who has a different form of justice. A man simply known as Shadow Geist. Now, how do I explain how Shadow Geist relates to Skullomania? Let's see. Let's say, picture this, right? If you put Bucky Barnes next to that guy from the movie Super, that's basically Shadow Geist and Skullomania. Because you see, Shadow Geist has one of those dark backstories that sadly mirrors our own world, but still is a backstory that you would expect to see of a character that comes from the likes of Marvel or DC. Your classic anti-hero backstory. You see, Shadow Geist comes from a place with a very corrupt government, and that government was responsible for the death of his wife. But because, people are fucking evil, they cover it up and make sure that they are not tied to it in the slightest. So Shadow Geist decides to take matters into his own hands by giving himself cybernetic enhancements and decides to don a mask to become a vigilante. But a man who has been through what he has been through and is fighting a whole corrupt government on his lonesome, he's not gonna have the softest hand when it comes to fighting crime. Basically, he's one brutal motherfucker, and Skullomania is not a fan of it at all. So Skullomania believes the methods of Shadow Geist are too villainous to be considered a hero. So he sees him as a brutal madman instead of somebody fighting for justice. But what exactly inspires Skullomania's quest for justice, and what inspires Skullomania's design as a whole? Well, if we take a look at my favorite design of his, we can see this big red belt around his waist. And I can partially understand why this belt isn't used in many of his designs anymore, because it's pretty much exactly the same belt as Kamen Rider Ichigo's. Kamen Rider Ichigo, as the name implies, is the original of many Kamen Riders that would come to be. For those of y'all that don't know what Kamen Rider is, it's basically the big brother of Super Sentai. Or for those of y'all that know it in the West, Power Rangers. And that inspiration goes further than just how he looks. You can see that he's also inspired by Kamen Rider in his moveset, specifically by naming all of his moves after himself. Kamen Riders name their moves after themselves, like the Rider Punch and the Rider Kick, and Skullomania names his moves after himself, like the Skullo Crasher and the Skullo Head and the Skullo Punch, and finally his finishing move, the most devastating move in fighting game history, stronger than a 10-string combo, stronger than a Raging Demon, stronger than an Ultimate Psycho Crusher. I'm talking about the Skullo Dream, where basically he just kinda does shit to you, I guess. Let's see, what does he do? He stomps you in the balls, he does a Claudio giant swing, he has a rubber hose cartoon fight with you, he sits you down to have a nice intellectual conversation, which is very considerate and sweet. Did I mention he stomps you in the balls? He stomps you in the balls, yeah, I can't forget that. He does a rider kick, which is very funny, and then he does, at the end, a nice dynamic pose to show off his victory. His Kamen Rider inspo goes even further with his Player 2 design, which is inspired by the counterpart of Kamen Rider Ichigo, Kamen Rider Nigo, with the red boots and gloves. And get this, right? His Kamen Rider influence somehow gets even deeper because that skull theming comes from the predecessor of Kamen Rider, the prototype Kamen Rider Skullman. Now, I'll try my best not to get too deep into the rabbit hole because this video is about Skullomania and I want to keep it to him. But essentially, Skullman was the manga that the creator of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider made, Shotaro Ishinomori, to be essentially the stepping stone to what Kamen Rider would eventually be. And I love that so fucking much because niche influences like that are the reasons I love character designs like this. It's like wearing your influences on the character's sleeve, but still making them interesting enough to where you don't even have to know what the influence is. And just when I think I couldn't love Skullomania anymore, he had to go ahead and be also influenced by Lucha Goddamn Libre, baby. That's right, because his bodysuit design is inspired by one of the most famous and beloved luchadors in the history of professional wrestling, La Parka. He is great. He does this little dance, and then he hits people with a chair, and then he plays the chair like a guitar, and then he hits people with the chair again. It's perfect. Absolutely sublime. Mwah, chef's kiss. I love it. It feels like Skullomania was made by my brain before I even existed. I love Skullomania. Anyway, if you also love Skullomania 2, don't worry. He's been in more games than the Street Fighter EX series. Now, of course, Skullomania did return with all the other Eureka Street Fighter characters and the spiritual successor to Street Fighter EX, Fighting EX Lair. But he's also kinda like Zubaz in a way, where he kinda just shows up and shit. He was initially planned to show up on a 2012 crowd-funded retro shooter game called Komodo Crunch Time. He showed up in one of the coolest fighting games that nobody really talks about, but I feel like we need to talk about more, Fighter Maker. And as you saw in the intro for this show, he also showed up in SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy as the gender-swapped Skullo Lady. Why he's gender-swapped? Well, there's this guy named Kukri who's a bit of a fucking freak that trapped all of the SNK female characters in this dream dimension and forced them to fight each other. But then he also trapped some of the SNK guys too, and then had them gender swapped, which is, I mean, alright, do your thing, I guess, but also don't do your thing because you're fucking kidnapping people. That's yeesh. But yeah. Anyway, Skullomania is one of the most beloved, obscure fighting game characters that you will ever see. His goofy yet earnest nature, his striking character design, the fact that he's a Kamen Rider and a luchador all in one, and the fact that he's from a less talked about but still significant and important era of Street Fighter, and all around just being fucking fun. He's one of my favorite fighting game characters of all time, and I hope after watching this video, you get some appreciation for him too. Thank y'all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry I sound a little sniffly. I have been sick. Go ahead and check out down in the description how you can keep up with me, my art, and my videos by following me on Blue Sky. If you're feeling gracious and want to help me make these videos better and come out more frequently, you can go ahead and donate to my Ko-fi. And if you want some custom art made by me for you, you can go ahead and do that through my commission site. Also, be sure to become a YouTube member to get all kinds of exclusive content coming soon, including getting a shout out on the end of these videos. So shout out to my first ever YouTube member, Addict with the Art. Be sure to follow them on twitch.tv/addictwiththeart. And most importantly, take care of yourself. And with all of that being said, I know times are tough, but we will get through it. I promise you. I've been high and breezy. I was here, and I did the best I can. Later.
I know that you'll be back.